My next question, you've touched on, some of you to a degree, but we'd like to get more specifics. In light of the current economy and the likelihood of future budget cuts, where will you make cuts from, and how will you ensure it does not affect public safety? Mr. Gore?
Well, instead of just talking about it, this is the drill we're going through right now. It's a difficult challenge, no doubt about it. We went through it. I said we cut $25 million out last year. When you're talking $25 million, you're not talking about supplies. You're not talking about pencils and tablets of paper. You're talking about personnel and overtime. We have gone through again and reprioritized and prioritized again everything we do in this department. What we did in the last go-around is we didn't want to do it, but something had to give. We looked at our most expensive detention facility, and we closed it in Descanso. It's going to stay in the county, and hopefully if the budgets come back, we'll be able to reopen that. But we did that without losing any beds. We were able to fully staff 200 beds we had already that we couldn't staff because of a shortage of manpower. And we triple bunked another facility so we didn't lose any jail space. But it enabled us to fill positions in our lineup, so we didn't have to pay those positions on overtime, and it also allowed us to save a lot of money in other areas by shifting resources. We also had a full-time SWAT team at one time in the department. We don't. We have a tactical team now that works out of patrol and responds as is necessary, and we save money there. We're looking at, we downsize some other entities. But once again, we looked at the critical thing, the essential things that the Sheriff's Department has to do. It's very depressing when you sit here. This is our 4th or 5th debate now, and you constantly hear about how bad the Sheriff's Department is. And you talk about the good old days and going back to the good old days. I hope people in this audience realize that you have one of the finest Sheriff's Department in the United States, certainly in the state of California, with the best trained, best equipped, most professional deputy sheriffs probably in the country, working out of the best facilities. That's not to say we're perfect, but we're a heck of a lot better than we used to be, and it's something you should all be proud of, and I'm proud of. I realize people don't get elected to office by saying that it's a good department and they run a good ship, but I want to do it better. They get elected by tearing the organization down, and don't let them do it. It's a good organization.
Thank you. Mr. LeSueur?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with something that Mr. Gore said. You know, and disagree with Mr. Ruff. We do have some pretty fine deputy sheriffs out there. Darn fine deputy sheriffs. They do a good job. They work hard. You can't, I don't think anybody can sit up here and say that our deputies are not the best in the world. But I haven't heard anybody say it. What I heard said was they talked about morale. You can have the finest deputies in the world have a morale problem. As far as waste and things such as this, probably one of the greatest improvements to getting rid of a lot of waste is cutting out the fat at the top. And there's a lot of fat at the top. And I think we can do that very, very easy and still maintain a very strong presence in our community and do those things that are necessary to combat crime. We don't need 3 or 2 or 4 attorneys running around the department. We don't need 4 assistant sheriffs. We don't need all the bureaucracy that goes with all that, but we have them today. We don't need a situation where people don't really truly understand the job. We're in the situation right now. We have an appointed sheriff who's never spent a day pushing a black and white car in California. Never made a misdemeanor arrest. Never made a felony arrest. Never responded to a family disturbance or an armed robbery or burglary in progress. So you don't know what the deputies actually go through. You can hear it. It's like somebody telling a doctor how much something hurts. He doesn't know because he's not experienced it. So we've got to go back. Like I say, started good, zero-based budgeting, cut out the fat, and put this all back toward our technology and towards our deputy sheriffs.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy?
The way we're going to do that is we're going to start cutting at the top. That's very simple. We haven't done that yet. That's reality. Look at Orange County. It's very well publicized in the paper up there. The sheriff up there, who was a deputy sheriff in LA County and knows the business, made her cuts at the top. She laid off 2 of her 4 assistant sheriffs. Laid off, not demoted them. find a job, do something else. 6 of the 14 captains did all that to make sure that she had the money to fund people who are delivering services. And that's what we're not doing here now. We cut 200 deputy sheriff positions. They were not filled. Now we got to get them back at some point from the Board of Supervisors. Luckily, we'd have to lay anybody off. But what we should be doing is cutting the people that don't deliver a service. We've got about 2,200 deputy sheriffs in the Sheriff's Department, sworn officers. We've got about 4,000 employees total. That's almost 1 for 1, sworn for professional staff. The ones we have to deal with and make sure we're funding are people that answer the call when you need help, that make sure that inmates don't walk out of our jails through open doors, and that people don't come into courtrooms and shoot a witness. That's what's important. If people at management level have to work harder, then they're going to work harder, because I'm going to work hard. So is my undersheriff. We're not going to have 4 assistant sheriffs. We're going to have 3, if even that. In hard times, we'll do 2, because that's all we need to have. That's a management position. It's not a service provider. Captains, commanders, all the positions that we have, legislative affairs and attorneys and all the things that Jay mentioned are fluff. Administrative support, same thing. If they don't provide a direct service, they should be looked at first for cutting money. That's where we need to make the cuts at. Not from deputy sheriffs or positions or closed jails where all we do is transfer those inmates to another jail who's now out of compliance with state regulations. And it's going to ultimately be like the problems we have, the old downtown jail, overcrowded, not enough toilets, not enough recreational room, and we get lawsuits again. That costs you money.
Thank you. Mr. Ruff?
Give me a quick version of what the question is. I listen to all this
Sure.
stuff, I get confused.
The likelihood of future budget cuts, where will you make cuts from, and how will you ensure it does not affect public safety?
You bring a vision. Within your vision, you take the staff that you need to accomplish your vision to move your organization forward. We have had fiefdoms built. We've taken over the courts, we've taken over this, we've taken over that, we've added this, we've added that. Nothing is effective. And I know this because I spent the time in the streets, and I did not say the deputy sheriffs are not fine men and women. There are some here, and I know thousands of my voters are the men and women that worked with me who can't come publicly and say, we support Bruce Ruff, because if they do, their job assignments, and promotions hang in the balance of doing that. And I tell them flat out, please don't jeopardize your future supporting me. There's plenty of other people that'll do it. I will bring a vision. Within that vision, developing NTC to create the tax dollars that we're going to lose. And of course, we're going to lose money. If you can cut $25 million out of a budget in 1 year, did you need it? No, you didn't. And if crime is down, what plans have you made to address the issues and start new programs while the crime is down? To utilize the men and women that you have to better train them? And I can tell you unequivocally, you have been cheated, because deputy sheriffs have been cheated out of training so that administrators could look good fiscally so they could get promoted. And I saw that year after year after year. So if you elect me your sheriff, I will sit down with the accountants again. I will take the org charts and find out what kind of a hellacious mess they are, which I know they are. They were when I left, and it's grown. We will restructure it to make it efficient and effective and operate to your benefit. And I will serve as your sheriff, and you can have your sheriff's department back from the politicians.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. My next question will start with Mr. LeSueur. And the question is, how do you see the current relationship with the Sheriff's Department and the various minority communities in the county? Where is change needed, and what changes would you institute? Mr. LeSueur?
Well, first of all, I think there's always room for improvement, no matter how good you are. But I do think this: the main thing that you need, or the main ingredient you need for getting along with people, I don't care what color you are, I don't care what your background is you treat everybody as an equal. I think that's what I did, and did here. That's what I did in Sacramento. I never had a problem with anybody. We can't allow ourselves to create problems and make people think that we feel that they are less than we are. God created all of us, and God created all of us equally. And we all have the right, as it says, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We have the right to do the absolute best we can. When you treat people like that, when you treat them fairly, you don't have a problem like that. When I started out, I walked a beat down at Logan Heights. I had people go out and walk a beat with me each and every night. And we never cared the fact that both of us were different colors. We cared about the fact that we got along and we were doing something to help the community. I worked in every possible area. I spent as a substation commander in Otay for a number of years there. And when I left, I had a going away party given to me by the community there because of the work that we had done. It's all because the way you treat people. And it's the fact that you treat people like you would treat yourself and like you would want to be treated. And that's an attitude that comes from the top down. If the attitude isn't there at the top, it's not there at the bottom. And those are the things that we have to understand. We treat people good, and we make sure that our attitude goes all the way down, and we make sure that that's enforced. We don't have those problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy?
It is about how you treat people. It's also about the management level, how they make decisions. In our department, at the rank and file level, we're pretty good on diversity. Not bad at all, frankly. When you get above to, well, let's say a captain level and above, we've got problems there. Predominantly white males, out of sync with society. Those promotions at that level and above are made at the discretion of the sheriff, who signs that piece of paper. When you're making that promotion, to understand our process, you got a rule of 10. You get the vacancy plus 10 more, 11 people to choose from. So out of that diversity, ability to pick people of color or gender or any other issue you would like to have more diversity of, rests with the person making the promotion. So who's put all the white males in that position? That's what I'd like to know. I think I do know, and you can figure that out. Beyond that part of it, we need to find a way to get a much better presence in our minority communities. You saw the issues in Vista, where we had shootings up there, community outrage. One of the problems was we had one deputy sheriff who was bilingual, getting paid to be bilingual, to do the extra work for that. Poway, other areas where we have Hispanics or communication barriers, there's no plan to allocate those resources. That doesn't make any sense. It should be that way. We should be able to communicate with the people we're trying to protect and serve. Go beyond that to kids. Our Explorer program used to be hundreds of kids in that program. Reserve deputy sheriffs, citizen volunteers that want to protect their community, a cornerstone in community policing. We have maybe, I don't even know how many, but less than 100. I just recently heard about that for the reserves, how the program too is not a priority anymore. You build those bridges by engaging those communities with people to bring them into the department so that kids that live in those areas run towards law enforcement, not away from them. And we're not doing that. We're not outreaching the communities. We have a particular community program for the Vietnamese community or the Chinese or any other segment of society that's not really having a communication barrier with dealing with us. We have to build that bridge.
Thank you. Mr. Ruff?
I think we're doing pretty well. If we're not, and I'm your sheriff, you can call me personally, and we will do better. I think we're doing pretty well. I think San Diego, which is the reason we don't need nuclear devices to quell the crowds, because we really have a pretty good relationship, and I have lived in and around this county. My relatives, by the way, go back to the mid-1800s in this county, so it's not like I'm a newcomer. I've got deep roots in this county. I grew up here. I was a sprint champion in this county. I have friends throughout. And when it's not an issue, the law you need to understand, and the leadership you need to understand that the law is supposed to be blind for all of this. It's supposed to be blind about color and about politics and about gender and about orientations. That's the way I work. So I didn't see problems in the communities I was in. And I was in many of the most complicated, difficult communities that the Sheriff's Department offers. And every place I worked, crime went down and we addressed the issues. So if people do have specific quarrels with the Sheriff's Department, my promise, absolute promise to you, is they will be addressed. And I also promise you that if we find that our people have not done what they should have, and those who worked for me did because they knew I would hold them accountable. I supported them when they did what they were supposed to, and I held them accountable when they did not. As your sheriff, I guarantee you an organization that is committed to serving you to the best of our ability, to do what you need to get done, but mostly to stay out of your way. And we're talking about, we make all this fluff. The truth is you run your lives without us. Most of you never even need to come. When the philosophy comes from the top, you model the behavior you desire. I have always done that. It has always worked. I will give that to you as your sheriff.
Thank you. Mr. Gore?
Thank you. First of all, diversity is critical in the organization, and you can't. When you're making promotions, you can't just look around and see who you got to choose from. If you want real diversity in your organization, you have to start down at the recruiting level, and that's what we have emphasized in this department. The former sheriff, Sheriff Collender, his reputation was built on community relations and diversity. When you look at the sheriff's department under Sheriff Collender, what it was before, I'm very proud of the diversity that we have in that department, and it's getting better all the time. When I took over as assistant sheriff, 3 of the 4 assistant sheriffs were female. I guess Jim forgot that. And we had one of the commanders out of the 6 commanders was Hispanic, 1 is African American. And as far as spreading the pain around with budget cuts, there's the record I got to correct here. We have cut 1 assistant sheriff out of 4. We've cut 3 commanders out. There's several captains that have been cut out. We are sharing the pain as we go around. Getting back to the diversity issue, I believe so strongly in this. There's nothing more frustrating when you're sitting on the 3rd floor at Ridgehaven looking at promotions and not having a diversified group of people to select from for promotions. So we're stressing this in the organization. When I first took over, we had a meeting with all the command staff, and we added diversity to our mission, vision, and value statement. So let's just not give it lip service. Let's put it in what we look at every day and what we're supposed to live by, and value the diversity in the communities we serve and within the organization. In addition to that, which has never been done in this organization before, shortly after becoming under sheriff, I instructed every one of the commands, every one of the station captains to form a community advisory committee to bring in underrepresented or minority members of the community so we could listen to their problems. Community policing is great, but I think the command staff and each one of our stations has to hear what the community demands are, and they have to understand what we do. And when you're talking back and forth, you take care of the serious problems and hopefully before they come out of control. So that's what we've done, and what I've done, what I'll continue to do in the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, gentlemen. The next question. As the sheriff, you would be the appointing authority for the issuance of permits for concealed weapons carry. What are your criteria for a law-abiding citizen to obtain a concealed carry weapons permit? Mr. Duffy, we'll start with you.
The criteria is outlined in the Penal Code, Section 12050. There's 4 things the sheriff has to find in order to issue a permit. The permit's required if you want to carry a concealed firearm in public. You cannot have a firearm concealed without a permit. So that's what this whole issue is about. It's pretty popular in a lot of our discussions. The first criteria is of good moral character. That's determined by a background check. The second part of that is good cause. That's determined by me, the sheriff. Third part of it is a training course that makes sure you understand the legal issues with using firearms and can demonstrate proficiency in using those. The fourth part is a resident of San Diego County. For personal protection, why would you get a permit other than to protect yourself? Isn't that the fundamental reason why you get it? You're not going to protect your car, you're protecting your life or your family's life. So if someone applies, passes all those parts, good moral character, good cause, meaning I want to protect myself and my family, completes the training course, lives in the county, I'll issue them a permit.
Thank you, Mr. Ruff.
I'm not going to go through a training course. I'll issue them. Many people don't have them now that should. Many people are in jeopardy because administrations have committed to not allowing people to protect themselves. Sometimes you need to protect your car. Sometimes you need to protect other things. And the bottom line is we will find as many ways to issue concealed weapons permits to residents of San Diego County as we can when I'm the sheriff, because the Second Amendment is under attack nationally and globally. They want to take our rights away from us, and the administration is submitting you to the world court. I get this. We need a safe and secure region here. Not everybody has to carry them, but those who want to learn And those who want to be safe, and we've got zillions of people from the military with tons of experience in handling weapons. And it would probably be the ultimate to have a bank robber come into a bank and everybody there's got a gun too.
Mr. Gore?
Thank you. Well, Jim did a good job of outlining the requirements under state law. He kind of skipped over, I think, when he talks about good cause. That's the main thing we're talking about. The other stuff is statutory. And it comes down to my decision as the sheriff, what is good cause? My position is pretty consistent with the last 3 sheriffs of this county, going back to John Duffy. Our records don't go much beyond that. And good cause is more than just, I want one. Good cause, and it's been the standard, is either a professional reason, a business reason, or personal security, and then you articulate a reason why there's been a threat or why you needed to protect yourself. I think that's a responsible and reasonable approach to take. I know there are people that disagree with me. When I look around the state of California, I think we have a balanced and actually a very good policy. When you look at San Diego County, we have 1,500 concealed weapons permits out there. Orange County, which is about the same size, has about 1,300. Los Angeles County, which is 3 times the size of San Diego County, has 1,200. So we're not doing bad. We issue 95, 96% of all the concealed weapons permits that are requested. But I have to have a standard besides I want one. I've talked to the NRA. I said, come up with another category besides a personal reason or a personal safety reason, and I'll consider it. But just I want one doesn't meet, in my opinion, the requirement of the state law, which I'm duty bound to uphold.
Thank you. Mr. Lesueur?
Thank you. At the last forum, the appointed sheriff made the comment that California is a shall not issue state. So obviously he was not even aware of the law in California. If you're a law-abiding citizen and you meet those qualifications that Jim cited to you, there is no reason why you should not have one for your personal protection. There are about 38 states, 37 states right now that are shell issue states. In each and every one of those states, after they became a shell issue state, the crime rate went down. There were those that wrung their hands and had the shrill voices about we're going to have gunfire in the streets and it's going to turn this state into the old Wild West, and they were all wrong. Personal protection, personal safety is a valid reason. Is a valid reason. It was said earlier on in the year that Mr. Gore was going to continue on with the policies of the past sheriff because things would be running good. The past sheriff was like finding hen's teeth to get a concealed weapons permit. A lot of people who were qualified, a lot of people that met the criteria, a lot of people that should have had them didn't have them. I don't know what part of personal protection doesn't mean anything. In particular, when you take a look at society today and you see all those things that are occurring, the drive-by shootings and home invasion robberies and all such things as this, personal protection is in fact a very valid reason, and I will issue them for that reason.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next question. Studies show that officers with a higher education tend to be more effective. With this in mind, how should the Sheriff's Department partner with the higher educational community? Mr. Ruff?
Well, I don't know that they have to necessarily. What you need to have is an academically oriented sheriff and one who's going to develop NTC so that we can raise the academic level, which I talk time and time again about, and people blow off. And the truth is that the knowledge base that was available when I was a rookie no longer exists. It just gets depleted year after year as we do the promotions and assignments and reassignments, and we get all of these great adventures to all of our friends and give them all these great jobs. We're not solving the problem. We do encourage people to have college degrees, and it depends on what you have a college degree in. I think it's best to address the academic issues of law enforcement internally with those who have actually done the work, who know the job, who know the history, who remember the way the laws were and how they got to where they are at the present time, and how they have been, forgive the expression, bastardized. And we clump stuff together, and we don't demand that the rank and file learn all the lessons. We clump stuff like identity theft into one one area instead of knowing the multitudes of ways that the criminals victimize you. We need a sheriff who is an educator, who has done the job, who knows the work, and who will make sure that those who serve you get it. Whether they're a college graduate or not is irrelevant. It's what information do you want them to have, and how do you want them to impart that as they enforce the laws in whatever community they happen to be in. That is critical. I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about law enforcement. I'm passionate about service to you, and that's what you'll get with me as your sheriff.
Mr. Gore?
I think education is a critical part of law enforcement. I think that's one of the reasons that we're successful here in bringing down crime in California, is that the educational requirements for peace officers in the state are some of the best in the country. I would welcome a partnership with a university. I think it's a great idea to partner. I would like to see us, it's a difficult fiscal time to try to do this, I would like to see some type of incentives built into for the deputy to get him to go back to school, to get his AA, BA, MA, whatever the case may be. I know when we're doing promotions, that's one of the things that we look at, and as we review the qualifications and the scores of the candidates, is we look at their education. I mean, that's not we all know that just because you have that doctorate degree doesn't mean you're obviously smart, but it's certainly an indication that you are a hard worker, you're willing to keep yourself on the cutting edge, hopefully, of education, and constantly trying to improve yourself. And that's going to make a better cop, it's going to make a better deputy, just common sense. I think we should do more. I would welcome an opportunity, like I say, to partner with one of the universities in town, or the colleges, and try to, when money allows, to build in some incentives to get our people back into education programs.
Thank you. Mr. LeSueur?
You know, when I became a young police officer, I knew that in order to go ahead and progress and go where I wanted to in my career, I needed to further my education. I spent a great deal of time going to night school. I finally resigned, went full-time to San Diego State, received my bachelor's degree, and then came on to the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. I hold a lifetime teaching credential for the community college level for criminal justice. I have had the honor and privilege of teaching here at National University for a short period. I've taught at a number of the community colleges around here. That's kind of doing things by example. That's also kind of saying to yourself, you know, there's some things that I have to do if I'm going to make myself better. You know, law enforcement has always encouraged the men and women that were in law enforcement to better yourself and go back to school. And there have always been incentives. We've always partnered with colleges. When I was the commander of the academy, we partnered with Miramar. Then they went to Southwestern College and partnered with Southwestern College. And part of the incentive for a young man or a young woman to go ahead and complete their education is those things that are evaluated and looked at when it becomes time for promotion. And if you apply yourself, and you do go to school, and you apply yourself out on the job, on the street, whatever job you have, then you are going to progress. If you don't apply yourself, then you won't progress. And I've seen many, many people that progress very, very fast. I've seen others that have not. But you can go back and take a look at what they did and how they wasted their talent, or how they didn't waste their talent, or how they wasted those things that they had earned, or they didn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duffy?
Our education is a much valued experience in law enforcement. It makes you well-rounded, more worldly, understanding people in different communities, how to do your job better. It builds on diversity, all good qualities. The fact of the matter is, though, we do have incentive programs. Post-certificate is based upon education. California, having great high educational standards for law enforcement, takes a GED. I'm not sure where that came from about high standards. It should be higher. Post should look at that issue as make it higher. But the problem with that is you've got to have a qualified candidate pool to bring people in. Many departments used to require a degree, like the FBI did. However, we couldn't do that because we couldn't hire enough people to do the job. So the best thing to do is get bright, qualified people who are capable of doing that job and like the job that they do. incentivize the ability to get that degree. So there's an economic incentive as well as perhaps a promotional incentive, which isn't codified in our department. We have a policy in education. We don't follow it. We incentivize it by giving them more pay for a higher degree through a post-incentive program, but not for everybody. Does that sound fair? Our law enforcement deputies have that program, post-incentives. We have deputies who work in detentions who have a similar program, but it's not as easy for them. It doesn't provide the rewards to get the payoff to incentivize them to get their degree. Most people who take advantage of the program already had it when they came to our department. They didn't get it while they were here. And many of those that did take advantage of that used correspondence courses, in many cases management people or supervisory people that used that as to take advantage of a system which should have been dealt with by discipline, and it wasn't. Even more importantly, as I said earlier, almost half of our department of professional staff, sheriff's policy is to not utilize what is afforded to them for tuition reimbursement. County policy allows us to reimburse professional staff employees for tuition costs. We choose in the sheriff's department not to do it, and I'll change that.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.